Okay, so I have a new idea. Alright, okay. Let's hear it. So, you know how there are these things called ninjas, right? And kids love these guys. They wear these masks and they go around like killing people. It's gonna be great. Alright, that sounds very interesting. Because of the current oversaturation of the market, a bunch of futuristic themes, I think it would be good to have something set in more of a medieval or older time period. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, instead of being that ancient, we're just gonna put it in the modern day. And they're gonna be able to drive cars and planes and also have mechs. Okay, so, Ninjago. Everyone's favorite theme. A bunch of teenagers going around fighting crime. Perfect storyline for over 16 seasons now. And I always thought that the stories and the villains were all very good, but something always bothered me. Just one fundamental problem that I just couldn't get over. And that was the question of why are ninjas needed when literally everyone has such advanced technology? So first, we must define what ninjas are. So ninjas primarily function between the 15th century and the 17th century. And obviously they used a bunch of different types of weapons, such as these swords, shurikens, and also bow and arrows in some cases, which is exactly what these ninjas in the show actually use. And the thing is, one of the major reasons why these ninjas were phased out and aren't like actually used in the modern age is because of guns. They're just so much more advanced technology that would just overshadow these ninjas so much more in this modern age. And guess what we see in the very first season? Literally a snake train with these huge turrets firing at these ninjas. So obviously, we can probably conclude that swords and these melee weapons are probably not gonna be able to compete with like machine guns that can kill people from like miles away. Now, you might be thinking that, well, all these other stories, such as like Star Wars, they still have these lightsabers or all these melee weapons that are still used against a bunch of these super advanced guns. So what is going on? Well, the thing is, Star Wars and the creators have actually taken into account this problem. Because the thing is, these lightsabers can actually deflect these lasers or bullets, which means that they are actually effective at defending against blaster fire and also playing to the advantage of melee weapons where they're able to inflict massive amounts of damage when they're able to get up close. And well, obviously, these weak little swords are definitely not going to be able to defend against bullets. Now, you might be wondering, how about the fact that they're able to do like Spinjitsu? It's literally in the title of the show. Well, obviously, this Spinjitsu can only be used for a very short burst of time, and it's also rarely used in especially the later seasons, which makes it very unreliable as a form of actually defending against all these other enemies or these blaster fire. And the producers of the show probably know the fact that these ninjas are probably extremely disadvantaged if people were to actually use guns, which is also why all these villains in the later seasons, even the literal motorcycle gang, which you would expect to have guns, none of them have guns. They just have these swords and katanas. And apparently, even though none of them have guns, they still have these super advanced technologies in making planes and cars. Which brings me to my second point. If these are ninjas, which are known for sneaking around and taking people by surprise, then why are they driving these super flashy planes and cars? It really just kind of seems counterintuitive and just makes the fact that they are ninjas much more useless. Like, they could just be normal people and they will still be able to be just as effective because they can just use these mechs to their advantage, and most of the times they just fight using these huge vehicles. This also brings super bizarre situations where, for example, in season 1, when they were trying to find these elemental weapons, these super old and magical weapons that will bring out the true power of each different ninja, and they just suddenly turn into these planes and cars and motorcycles. Like, how does it even work? And I feel like these type of situations just kind of take away from these ninjas' true power and places where they actually need to show that they are worthy. And they just replace them with these flashy car chases. And this finally brings us to why I truly think that the producers of these shows decided to do such things. And that is because of money. We must realize that all these Cartoon Network or the Lego company, their main focus is not to create a good story or anything. Their primary focus is to sell Lego sets. They are a business, and they are going to try to find what will make people buy the most amount of product. And this is why we have ninjas, which are something that children really love. And it's also something that we can use to develop a unique show. But obviously, we're not just going to have a whole line of sets just based on old medieval and Japanese style housing, right? So they implemented some fantasy. So we have dragons, which also kind of makes sense in this type of culture. But then again, we can't just make like hundreds of dragons. We must have something else. And now this brings us to the concept of cars. Because cars are inherently very basic. They don't need a lot of very flashy play functions, because all the kid has to do is to roll the car around and they are going to be happy. Which is also why like Hot Wheels is so popular. And this is why I think that Lego has decided to implement so much of these modern technology into this show. Now take this with a grain of salt, because I might be completely wrong, and I'm just a fan that's speculating. But based on the current information that we have, I think this is a pretty good conclusion. And obviously, it's not like this whole theme is completely bad, right? Because this is generally a very good storyline, and also a very good line of sets. Like, the Destiny's Bounty and the Ninjago City Gardens will always be one of my favorite sets, and always be one of the best Lego sets that are ever made. And finally, to add on to that, Season 13 is one of people's favorite seasons. And this shows that Lego doesn't need to put in a lot of different technology to make a good storyline. Like, this whole season just focuses on character development, and also shows how Cole can use his own abilities and his own earth elemental power to defeat someone that's so much more stronger. And something that I really, really, really like about this line is that the only major quote-unquote mech that included was the Firestone mech. And the unique thing about it is that it doesn't even use any technology to power it. It literally just uses the earth elemental power, which I think really shows what the core of Ninjago really is. So in conclusion, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!